Hi, my name's Nick Broughton, and I'm a Randomfish. Hit the subscribe button and let's all be random fishes together, shall we? So, in the spirit of keeping things very British around here, and very British shows, while I've been incapacitated, I've had to, I've watched a lot of stuff, mostly on Netflix. This stuff obviously is available on other websites, such as the Channel 4 website itself, I believe, on Channel 4 Catch Up. But I was watching Fresh Meat. Yeah, that's a show I hadn't watched, at least not properly. I wasn't at a stage in my life where I thought it was kind of funny, I guess. It aired in 2011 to 2016. So around that time I was 21 through to about 26. I wasn't really in the mood to be watching shows like that. I kind of have this aversion to certain shows at certain points in time, especially what was produced here in the UK, because it was mainly down to stuff like bad humour, awkward humour, weird humour, that kind of stuff. It just didn't sit well with me as not only as a wannabe comedian, but also as an actor, as a writer, and just in general as a person. It didn't sit well with me. But since then, my tastes have not so much improved, but I've more rounded myself out, so I figured, why not watch Fresh Meat and see what it has to offer. Now, I'm holding the cast up on my phone so I can get their names right, because this bugs me. This is why I tend not to say the names of actors and actresses and the roles they play, because I nearly end up making the names wrong. So, bugger it. I'm going to go with this. Right, so we've got Kimberly Nixon, Zawe Ashton, Jack Whitehall, Charlotte Ritchie, Joe Thomas, and Greg McHugh. Those are the six main characters within the show, because those are the six characters really that show up in the flat where everyone lives. Yeah, you get some side characters every so often, but they're not primarily my focus, or primarily the audience's focus. You focus on the main characters most of the time, so it's fair enough. The only other named character or the named actor that's in the credits is Robert Webb, and he's in a couple of seasons, and he turns up in a few episodes every so often, but he's not essential to the plot, I guess, is the kind of sad truth of it all. The actual plot of the show, obviously, is that the six characters all move into a flat together as part of university. They live in a shared house together as part of the uni thing. And obviously the show is various shenanigans and the mundane stuff that they do on the day-to-day life or the week-to-week basis life of what they do at uni during their years there. And the whole build-up of is uni actually a waste of time? Is it not? Is it something, it delves very deeply into the last season actually, especially into the last few episodes. They really hammer home certain people's voices where they'll be like, at the end of university you have a degree, yes, but what does it actually do for you? You're left with, this insane amount of debt, and you barely have anything else to sort of hold on to apart from this piece of paper that essentially is something that you may not be using at all for the rest of your life. So what exactly are you going to do with it? It's one of those type of things and one of those type of moments, and it's weird. So, I mean, how does one look at this show objectively? Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, this show is just weird. I mean, okay, let's take a look at, again, I'm going to keep on looking at the characters and everything else. Right, Zawe Ashton plays Vod. Now, she's one of the most outrageous characters on the show, with the exception of Jack Whitehall, I think. Vod is essentially a wannabe moneymaker. She's standoffish. She has, as we discover in one of the episodes, a pretty strained relationship with her parents, her mum especially. She's intelligent, but she hides it very much under a layer of sarcasm and stupidity. And she is, in a lot of ways, she represents a lot of people in uni now, as well as back when this show was prominent, and even when I was at the age when I could have gone to uni, which would have been this whole thing about people going, the second you get into university, your anxiety sort of kicks in to the point where you don't think you're intelligent enough to get away with anything. And so it looks like you're arsing off the entire time, when in actuality your brain is so bloody brilliant at what it does. It just happens. And you're constantly second guessing yourself because you think it can't be that easy. It just can't be. And then you end up getting a good grade at the end. I mean, for example, part of Vod's story is that in the final episode she gets a 2.1 on her exams, on her course. And, you know, for those of us who don't do this sort of thing and haven't really done that, a 2.1 is an excessively good grade. It's not a first, obviously, which is the best of the best, but a 2.1 is considered one of the best scores you could possibly get, I think, anyway. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments down below, those of you who actually have been to university, because I've been to college, but that's about as far as it gets for me. You then get Kimberly Nixon, who plays Josie. Now, Josie and Joe Thomas's character Kingsley are the will they won't they characters of the show. That they seem like the will they won't they characters of the show. They seem like the Ross and Rachel, if you will. Josie is your typical girl who wants to have... I feel like I need to group three of them together now, because Josie and Kingsley, I put them together as like the big couple. Josie, Kingsley, and Charlotte Ritchie's character, Oregon, or Melissa, as she's technically known, that's her technical name. The three of them are these characters who sort of turn up. Josie and Oregon especially appear to be these two characters who turn up, and they want to reinvent themselves at uni, and they want to sort of forget about their home lives as much as possible and reinvent themselves and make sure no one ever finds out anything bad about their lives. Oregon does this because she has super rich parents. She lives in a fairly nice house. She has a horse. All this stuff. She's not particularly happy about it. She doesn't think it's a very good idea. And she just doesn't want people to know about her past. And eventually they do. Vod ends up finding out very prominently. And then, of course, she reveals it to everyone else later on in the show. Josie kind of has this thing where she's had a boyfriend back at the house where she used to live before she moved to Manchester, where it actually takes place. It takes place in Manchester, or at least in show it does. The biggest issue with Josie's character is that she is this girl who's very much, well, I say this girl, this person. Okay, there's no gender preferential treatment here, at least not in the show anyway. Josie is just very much someone who tries to make it sound like she's more intelligent than she is, and is trying to fit in with everyone, and is trying not to be left out of anything, and is just trying to soak up the uni experience as best she can, but she's not doing a very good job of it. Her and Kingsley do a lot of flirting very early on, and that's why it kind of becomes this big deal when it's revealed that Josie does have a boyfriend, who turns up in the middle of the whole show just to like surprise her, which is hilarious to me. And then if you turn out that, you know, Josie also is a little bit of a combination of a slut and not quite. In the first episode, she wants to sleep with Kingsley, and she ends up sleeping with Jack Whitehall's character, JP. She does this multiple times throughout the show, and she constantly does the whole, I don't want to be sleeping with JP, ew JP, oh my god, I don't like JP. And then she kind of gets to the point where she's like, well, hang on a minute, if I'm having sex with JP so much, then why do I not like JP? Kind of mentality, which is what we're basically, a whole bunch of us are all thinking now in the audience, I think. Or at least that's what I hoped people were thinking in the audience at the time when this show was being aired. I'm kind of hoping that a lot of people just screaming at the screen, just being like, "Why don't you just admit it?" At her, because it felt so obvious to the rest of us in the world. She does end up sleeping with Kingsley when she finds out that he's a virgin. Again, through an episode of miscommunication and misunderstandings, he is a virgin, but he has sex with someone else first, with the girl from the drama course on the show. So, you know, yay, drama students, we were represented. It's interesting because he sleeps with the drama student, and he's no longer a virgin. At which point he then has sex with Josie, and it's more with Josie that it's his first time than it is with the drama student, which I find very interesting. So that was kind of weird. She ends up getting pissy with him and blah 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 and all this sort of thing and all this kind of crap. And they do end up trying to be a couple in one of the seasons. They do. And it's nice to see it try and happen, and it is nice when the two of them actually do sit down and legitimately look at each other and go, I don't think this is going to work long term. You know, we have an attraction to each other. We're able to have fun. It's great, but I don't see how this is going to survive long term. And they sort of say, yeah, we realise that, and it just sort of ends there. And it's sad, but at the same time, you kind of saw it coming, I guess. I mean, the whole thing was built up with such intensity that you couldn't really have had any other ending apart from complete happy ever after, you know, love hearts and flowers and all that crap. It just wasn't going to happen. Not for anyone. We then cut to Howard, the character of Howard, played rather brilliantly by Greg McHugh. Howard is, how do I put him? Howard is weird. To just insult you all with my accent there. Howard is, he's the oddball. I said Vod was the oddball. Howard is more of an oddball than Vod is. And weirdly enough, you still find yourself loving Howard. He was the first one there. He was there beforehand. He's one of these guys that kind of keeps on changing his degree, keeps on changing his course, so that he doesn't actually have to leave, so he just stays there indefinitely for himself. By the end of the final season, though, he does get a nice kick up the pants, basically saying, dude, you need to move on with your life. And he does. He does get there. He does get a first, which is nice. Circling back, I wanted to talk about Oregon, or Melissa. Everyone appears to be... While Vod is the representation of someone with a very powerful brain, yet they have the ability to not do much, yet still achieve so much. Not just because they're not working, but because they work very differently to other people. Oregon, I kind of feel, is a representation of when expectations are placed on you that are so strong that you almost automatically rebel without meaning to. And that is incredibly obvious throughout the entirety of the show. I mean, Oregon spends her first year sleeping with one of her professors. She then breaks up with him. She then dates his son and breaks up with him when they find out that... He breaks up with her anyway when he finds out that she used to sleep with his dad. She tries to go for student union president. She manages it, and yet she fails so spectacularly at it that she gets kicked out of office. And she gets a 2-2 at the end, which I'm guessing is one of the low points. It's one of the lowest grades you can possibly get at uni, which leads to her parents being very, very disappointed in her and leads them to very much just... Her mum anyway, because you don't actually see her dad at the graduation ceremony. But her mum basically chews her up and spits her out for this. And you do kind of feel bad for Oregon, but at the same time, she's also one of these characters that tries to act so much more superior than everybody else. everyone in the show kind of does this, but in the same way, Oregon takes it a little too far. Everyone kind of does the whole, I have my own stuff going on lines that are thrown up. Oregon's just seem to be that little bit more agitating and just that little bit more moment. But all in all, what's the show like? It's a series of interesting shots with somewhat witty dialogue. Jack Whitehall plays an asshole, which you kind of love to see. He's a lovable asshole, but he's still an asshole. No, he does have some good moments throughout the show. He really does, and he's a lovable character in the end. But you are surrounded by the general sort of moments of uni. You know, the student protest that happened in London. That's shown in the show. There's a bit involving some of Jack's old, or JP, I should say, the character of JP's old friends who are all just dicks. You get some very serious moments where Jack's dad dies very early on in the season to show that he actually is a good person and to show that he genuinely is a good character, which is nice to see. You do get him learning a very prominent lesson about the whole... He gets obsessed with a girl that he thinks he's in love with, who he thinks loves him back, but she's just playing hard to get, but she's not. She actually doesn't like him in that way, and it takes him a very long time to realise it. And like I said, I mean, it's all cramming for... It's all about the cramming for revision and exams and learning to do the papers. It's about picking up jobs, sort of pick up the slack. It's about meeting new people. It's about dating. It's about relationships. It's about uni life in general. And if you don't go to university and you watch this show and you think this show is a good, accurate representation of uni life, I kind of want to say yes and no. Again, me personally, not been to uni, but I would like to think that it was in some way slightly a slightly good representation, but not perfect. There is a lot of things that just aren't being represented there well. But with that all being said, I do recommend that you go check it out. Go check out the show and everything else, or recommend that other people go check it out. It does age pretty well. Jack Whitehall is still incredibly funny in this, as he will be in future shows, not just in his stand-up comedy, but also in shows like Bad Education. He's very good in that. And stuff like that. But please, go check out the show. If you have already, then go check it out again. Watch it again. Rewatch it. Have a laugh with yourself. And with that, I will simply say, Randomfish, out.